All right, we're live.
Woo-hoo.
Woo-hoo. All right, so welcome to episode 7 of Women Who Whine. This week I'm going to actually try to look at the camera because I tend to just be looking down at my wonderful women on the panel. My name's Tanya Houston from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and I'll give you a little overview about what we're going to do today. Just to let you know, everyone's had just one heck of a week. So Jess got her house broken into. Nori's trying to get her house together after a flood. Laura just got a new dog, and Patrice is getting ready to move her daughter across country. And my kid just had a meltdown a half hour ago because I picked her up too early from.
I was going to say I started the wrong broadcast. Do you guys want to do this again and come back into the right broadcast? We're on number 8. We skipped a month.
I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
All right. So first of all, just some resources for you all who are joining us today. Obviously, hopefully you made it here. We have a blog post on our new website, so 3wedu.wordpress.com. If you want to find out more about us or what we're doing or hear different things that we're sharing, you can check that out. Obviously, we have the Google Plus site, which lots of you found us here today. You can hit us up on that. And so one of the important things is for the back channel communication, please feel free on Twitter to use the hashtag 3wedu. And so usually one of us is sort of keeping up with that conversation as well. And so we're going to go ahead and get started today. First of all, introducing all of us wonderful ladies here and what we are drinking. And so why don't we go ahead and start off with Nori. Nori, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking a bottle of True Myth Chardonnay. It comes from Edna Valley, which is just outside San Luis Obispo. It is, as I said, a Chard. The alcohol content is in my acceptable range of 13.5. And I'll read you the tasting notes here. It says she's loaded with citrus and tropical flavors, vanilla bean, and hints of toasted oak. I'm a member of one and only one wine club, and this wine comes from that wine club, but they're starting to sell it, they're starting to distribute. So you could find it when you couldn't, like, I don't know, 6 months ago. So, True Myth.
Awesome. I think I actually might like that Chardonnay. So, good deal. Just based off the tasting notes. Yeah, True Myth. Okay. Stock up. Next time I'm in Cali, I'm going to try that one. All right, and moving down the list, we have Jess. Jess, what are you drinking today? I think I would definitely like this one.
Maybe, so my husband was like, I'm going to Meijer. Do you want me to get you some wine? And they did. I don't know anything about it, but it's good. It's got a starfish on it. And
I like that one. That's from Marlborough, New Zealand.
Yep. And it just is a bunch of words, don't make any sense. I think it tastes like grapefruit, and then I have my LaCroix lime because it's so hot here. I can't just drink wine. Oh my gosh. Whew. Humid.
Yeah, it's really hot here today too. That is an awesome wine, and for some reason a lot of the bars here were carrying a different Sauvignon Blanc, and now they're all, I think, carrying that one. So I am a huge fan of that one, so good choice. Next, Patrice, what are you drinking today? I know you just ran down and got it as we were starting, so what do you got?
Well, I normally only drink red wines, but it is so hot here that even I have broken down and not quite ready for the whites. I am drinking a lovely French rosé, and it comes in a beautiful bottle, which I think I will save and use as a vase. There are no tasting notes on it, so I can't tell you anything about it except that it is delicious and refreshing.
Totally awesome. And Laura, are you with us?
I am. I'm just editing because we have the wrong link in the advanced podcast, so I'm adjusting a couple blog posts right now. But I have actually, ironically, Jess, you and I are drinking from the same country and same area, Marlborough. I'm drinking the Sacred Hill Pinot Noir, and I don't think it's too hot for reds. The Pinot's lighter. You put it in the fridge, you chill it, and it's got some condensation coming off it because I live in Tejas. It's always hot, so nothing new here. Reds all year. Just put it in the fridge. Keep it cool.
Do you drink reds from Marlborough a lot? I have never had a red from there. I don't think I just drink the Sauvignon Blanc.
No, it was an experiment I learned when I asked where the bottle came from. It's a fair crowd, my partner in crime. He's like, try it. If you like it, it's like, I think $5 less than when he'd seen it at Costco at some random, at the Kroger, signature Kroger down the street. So we always like to sample and try new wines. And our best friend, Edwin, came over the other day. He's a sommelier, and he said, hey, pick what you like. It's not about the cost or where it's from. It's your taste buds. So we just try and taste some random wines.
I'm a big fan of New Zealand wines myself.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I met him when I was there, right?
You did. He came over with a coconut on Sunday. So that was a random odd fact. BYO coconut. Who knew?
Should I ask or just let it go?
There was someone selling fresh fruit, he said, and he's like, I'd like a coconut. So that's what he came over with. I don't know.
All right, good deal. So just for folks to know how this goes, we usually start off talking about what's uncorked today. Oh, I guess I missed myself. You guys know I don't really, I go for months drinking the same thing. So for the next couple months, you will see me with the trusty Bodo box, Red Volution. And I'm excited to say that our friend and colleague Callie Morrison is joining us as well with the Bodo box. So if you're joining us virtually, please tell us what's uncorked for you today. Again, you can send a picture of what you're drinking, share with us, and also use the hashtag. We are currently working on a list of wines that we've drank or folks that have joined have drank. So if you're looking to pick up a wine, you've obviously are sort of understanding a little bit about some of our different tastes. And so, you can feel free to check out that list and pick something really special. I felt like I was just doing a commercial or something. That's something special for you on a Thursday or on a Wednesday. What day is it? Wednesday. All right. So today, and in every podcast, we have what's called a tasting flight. So the tasting flight for 3WEDU is that we pick different topics that have come up, either things that we're experiencing or we've talked to colleagues and that they're experiencing, or things that are in the news that we felt were just things that we wanted to talk about. Now, I should mention when we started this, it was really about just us coming together as women who met professionally either on Twitter or at conferences, and we started having these really rich face-to-face conversations and sometimes one-off virtual conversations. We just decided to all come together and have this virtual happy hour, and then we decided to let other folks join in and watch. So we're really excited if you're watching, and please participate again in the back channel at 3WEDU. So we kick off the tasting flight today. There's two topics. One topic is about starting a new position in higher ed, sort of this pre-entry sort of socialization thing that you go through when you're starting a new position. And the second topic today is about professional development, specifically leadership training and networking ops. So lately there's been lots of talks with different colleagues and some of us on the panel who have moved into new positions about, questions or challenges that they're having in an organization, or what's the best way to get to know the organization, and then also, how do you continue to grow as a woman, as a leader? What are some different opportunities out there, and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with topic one, which is starting a new position in higher ed. And I should mention that at the half hour or about there, we're going to have a special guest. We're really excited to have Mary Nemec with us from University of Nebraska System. Mary Nemec is an Associate Vice President and also the Director of Digital Education. So super excited, and we'll let her introduce herself when she gets here. But back to topic one, so starting a new position in higher ed. So if you're joining us on the back channel, please share your questions about starting a new position, share your advice or different tips. And this actually had come up, Laura on the panel had brought this up, and so I'm going to pass it over to Laura to talk a little bit more about her experiences and just some of the things that she learned and some of the things that she's still trying to figure it out. If she's not multitasking, I didn't mean to throw it on your lap, Laura. But so Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experiences?
And this is the new position starting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a unique position that I actually have always had to apply for a job in the last few years outside the country, so I navigate the job search in different ways as an international applicant. So since 2008 is when I came to Texas, I probably have had 5 jobs based on moving within a university, moving to a different university, moving from a staff position to a faculty position within the same institution. So it's been a unique and great opportunity, and I think I can pride myself to say that it helps me teach a class in professional development when interviews come up and what you should look at as far as researching trends in salaries, researching the industry that you're applying to. And my industry is higher ed, so I have been able to scope and do that a little bit better. But I think part of the big thing for me when I've been interviewing, and I've had recent interviews, and people have asked me, am I applying for anything now? And I said, well, I've had 1 or 2, but if it's not the right cultural fit for me and kind of aligns with what I want to do in the bigger picture, I really don't think it's the right time to move or take a position on. Even if it seems like a better title or maybe more pay or a lateral move, but like better pay, I think other things come into factor when onboarding, and we started talking about that. So it wasn't just about pay, which is really important. Someone else, we could talk about that, someone else could contribute. I think there's other factors. So for me, I like the flexibility of working remotely or a hybrid aspect and having multiple cases. And so one place actually asked me about my ideal job, and this is an assignment I give my students now, is if you had to describe, so before you even search, if you had to describe your ideal job and what that looks like, what would that be? And it's taken my many years in higher ed, probably 12 institutions, different roles in academic affairs, student affairs, faculty, research, support to do some of this. So I've been really thinking about, what that means, and I wrote my ideal job description, and then I was like, oh, I have it. So someone asked me to write a job description for a job they could create last year, and I was like, oh wait, I'm doing it. This is great. I don't know what else I need. So that's how I started, is thinking about what my wish list is.
So that's sort of that pre-entry. You know, when you're going into an organization, what are you looking for? And last month when we had an episode, just to emphasize what Laura was saying, we had several people that chimed in when we asked them. I think it was the same thing. You know, yeah, title's great and pay is great, but having that organizational culture, that cultural fit. And then the second thing that Laura brought up was having that opportunity to have challenging work. So others on the panel want to chime in?
I was thinking about when you first come on the job and how, you know, you've just been through the interview process and you've maybe spent an entire day interviewing and talking to people on the team. Sometimes there's this assumption that kind of like everybody knows you and your background, what you're interested in, what types of projects you want to do. So I think sometimes we forget to let people know that about us. And, you know, a colleague of mine told me that whenever there's like which happens frequently, whenever there's a reorganization and she gets moved into a new group, you know, she always shares her resume with her new supervisor, you know, so that they can review it and let them know what they're doing. So I just think it's important to, you know, like what Laura said, you know, we all have our ideal job and ideal things that we want to do. And so I think the more that we network and meet new people as soon as you get on the new job and develop relationships, it'll help you navigate that and get involved in things that are important to you and that you want to work on. And of course, I think one of the most important things when you start a new job is finding out where the coffee machine is.
And it is interesting because everyone on the panel in the past couple of years has actually moved into a new position. So I moved into a new position, Jess has moved into a new position, Laura has, Nori very recently, and Patrice, you're fairly new at your position as well. We all sort of had these experiences. So I just want to make sure that's a good one, is informing people of your experience. You know, sharing your resume or Vita. I would have never thought about that one, but Jess or Nori?
So mine was interesting in that I took a job at the place I had worked for years and years and years. And what was different about that is that I had worked with my now supervisor, again, for years and years and years. but he had the job that I do now before I did. So the learning was really different in like how, how do you make your mark when you're kind of taking over from somebody that you already really liked how they worked. How do you change things in a way that's sensitive, I suppose. So the socialization was really difficult. I've been doing it for about a year, and I'm still learning. I think difficult in a good way. Those are pretty good problems to have, but I'm coming up on my 1-year review, and I was trying to figure out, what to put on my self-review. And it took me days just to figure out, like, how am I doing this? What do I want to say? What do I want to improve on? So, yeah, who's next?
I'll jump in. One of the things I do.
Really quick, Nori. Can I just? There's some people on the back channel saying that they can't find us, and so they're not watching.
Yes.
So somebody.
Laura tried to let us go to the right channel, and we didn't.
So is there
I'm working on it. Yeah, I'll tweet it out right now. I'm working on it.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome job. But should we post something somewhere in Twitter?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, a link to post on Twitter.
Let's pause a sec. Laura, do you need any help with anything just to get things right?
Nope, tweet it out, and I'll retweet with the actual account as well.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, awesome.
I deleted the old events so people aren't confused.
As always, huge thanks to Laura, who is our not only participating, but she's also running all the tech for us. So
I'm completely incapable.
None of us really want to do, and she does a bang-up job of it every week.
Or just bang it up, and we move on from there.
Right.
Sorry, Nori, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure.
No, I was thinking, so for me, when I'm getting started or getting established, a couple of jobs ago, I started ending every interview with a question. At the end of an interview, like panelists say, "Oh, and do you have anything to ask us?" And I felt this compelling need to come up with this really good question. And it occurred, and what I wanted out of the question was to get the people interviewing me to reveal something about the job. So I've started asking, if I am the candidate, if I'm the successful candidate, and you hire me, what will be different in your organization a year from when I start? And then I take notes. Depending on the number of people on the panel, often this question does a couple of things for me. One, I can tell who's really leading this initiative. I can tell who really cares about what's going on. And two, I get a sense that is usually not included in the like the job description. Like a lot of times those job descriptions are sort of HR oriented. I get a really good sense of what they are actually looking for, and I write that down. So then, fast forward to sort of that getting started. You're there. Once I arrive, I will often ask, depending on the culture, if there are things that they hope will be in place in the first 6 months, or if, am I coming in to make a change, and am I expected to hit the ground running? Or am I coming into a group that's already formed or a team that's already formed? And if so, first 3 months, I just say yes to every single thing, and I speak very little. It's just yes and listen, yes and listen. And I put that 3-month mark on my calendar, and when that's over, then the next 3 months are yes and. So now when I'm talking about things, I'll start to give out ideas or become more proactive about my opinions and what I bring to the plate. And by 6 months, I usually expect myself to be leading in some way. I should be the whatever team I'm on or whatever project I'm working on, it should be really apparent that I've done something significantly different, or we're moving in a direction that they need this project to go. And a lot of times I base that on that interview question. Where do you expect me to be? Where do you expect this organization to be a year from now if I was the good hire? So that's sort of my take on getting us started and at a new job.
That is my favorite thing I've ever heard, and I not only tweeted it, but I'm totally using it for the rest of my life. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've worked on a college campus for so long that student workers are off to their first job, and I always make them write it out and practice that question, because it's better than saying, what are the vacations, or when do you get salary increases, or something that young people sometimes say because they think that's what they're supposed to ask. Like, that sounds like a responsible question.
Jess, based off your experience, do you have a tip that you would give people for, entering an organization or taking a new position in an organization that you've already been in?
We should probably get through my PDP review first. I think I just sort of went slow. I'm a super team player, almost in an annoying way at times. But one of the first things we did was I talked to the people in the department, and I kept hearing, well, we're really busy, or we're doing stuff we shouldn't be doing, or this isn't working, and I don't feel like I can get to be doing the things I am feeling like I should be doing. So we did a meeting where it was, Post-its, and so I said, what do you do every day? And then I meant tasks, and they put them all up, and we had tons and tons of them. And then we had a separate Post-it, and I said, now go to your Post-it notes and move over the things that you don't think you should be doing every day. And so they moved some of that stuff around, and we got some really good themes and some really good things to work on. It may have been a little gradual just in how we handled that sort of thing, because I did get some feedback like, well, my job's not different right now. It was like 2 weeks later. But that was really useful to just kind of get at what people were thinking and doing. And we were able to start changing the culture in a slow way that was really team focused.
Yeah, another important thing is finding someone to kind of befriend you. I mean, I think one of the great things when I started my job was someone on my team, took me around campus, showed me all the places to buy coffee. If you can't tell, I like coffee. But even like little things about, if you're relocating to a new area, where the good stores are, where the good restaurants are, what are the things to do that aren't obvious that people might not tell you, what are the traffic patterns. So, if you can figure out who's kind of in the know, that's a really great thing. And for me, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but I was lucky within my first year to participate in a leadership program. And that really enabled me to network and just meet all sorts of people in IT. And I think it's really important when you start a new job to just ask a lot of questions and meet as many people as you can. And to try to think of your in. I mean, I emailed deans of departments and assistant provosts and whoever I wanted to talk to, and just said, I'm new here at Cornell. I want to learn about the political landscape. Would you have some time to talk to me? And people were really gracious with their time, and that that will not only help you get a better sense of the politics and culture, but then you have connections, so that if a project comes up, if you need to find help from somebody in the library, you have a connection there. So I would really stress just, socializing being a really, really big part, and just getting out and meeting people.
That makes, when I'm listening to you, Patrice, that is a level of vulnerability that's really appropriate at a new job. And maybe that's something we should just say overtly, like, consider what is powerful vulnerability to say, I don't know the political landscape, and I'm asking you. There's something about that creates that has the potential to create a really strong tie between the people you reach out to and yourself.
So one of the things that came to mind when Jess was talking, when Patrice was talking, when Patrice was talking, the one thing that we always hear that I think is good advice is listen. So, you're saying socialize, ask a lot of questions, but I think especially when you come in as in a leadership role, people come in and they're like, I'm going to change everything, and I have this whole new vision, and this is what we're going to do. And we all know that doesn't work. I think every article from the Harvard Business Review, although not my favorite journal or anything, is it a periodical? I don't even know what it is. Magazine? Is it a journal? Okay. So, I mean, it has these like 5 tips, so I don't think it's really a journal. But anyways, so, it tells you that you need to listen. So, how many months do you come in a leadership role and listening? And then Jess reminded me when I took on my director role, sort of what we did, I already was in the unit, like Jess was promoted to a director role. And we spent some time, and this is the one thing we got as we transitioned to the professional development thing, from the Moore Leadership Institute, which we've talked about. And we'll share these resources with you in the Google Doc, was we did something called a SWOT analysis. So I took my whole team out of the unit, off campus, to like a really cool, I don't know, sort of like hipster, everybody can work here, collaborative space, somewhere in the warehouse district. And we went through a SWOT analysis. So it was sort of team building, like what are your strengths, or what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what are our opportunities, and what are our threats. And so we got to find out what all of us thought these things were and sort of come up with similar meaning for these different things and a similar understanding, because it's really important when you have a unit that you sort of have similar perspective about things. The second piece of that was sort of rethinking our mission. Like, we have a mission. Does this align strategically with the current initiatives of the university? Do we need to rethink that? And we talked a lot about, creating a shared vision, understanding what our goals for this year were, for 3 years out or 5 years out. And then also we looked at what our specific individual activities were, or our collaborative activities, and how they help those achieve those goals. And we also were able to identify priorities. So what is really important to us, and what should we not spend as much time doing? And we did they were like an all-day thing. You bring in some food. So I think that as we talk about professional development, that's one, that SWOT analysis was one thing, professional development thing I learned from Moore that I found really useful. So when you come into a new unit and you're entering an organization, not only as a member of that organization, but having to take on a leadership role, I think Jess had and Patrice had alluded to some additional things. Before we move to professional development, last week it was really great because Nori listed off a whole bunch of tips so that you guys listening have something practical to walk away, or even us just talking. So I was trying to jot these down, so I'm going to go through these quick. So is title important to you? Is this a lateral move, or is it a hierarchical move? What's that move? Moving up, like the Jeffersons. Are you moving up for salary, or are other things important to you, like culture, challenging work? We have folks on Twitter that were talking about flexibility in work and remote work, and we talked about this before. Informing people of your experience by sharing your vita, understanding your expectations or those of the people you work with of success. What are the short-term expectations for my performance? What are long-term expectations of performance? How are you going to know, and I'm going to know whether we're successful or not, with what Nori was saying. Befriending somebody, find and build some social networks, and not only working on about the job and the tasks and the activities, but also asking about social things. We've talked a lot about building authenticity and sort of not just being your professional self, but being your authentic self, and sometimes that can help based off of what Patrice was saying. Listen, ask a lot of questions. Don't go in there right away thinking you're going to change things or take on certain initiatives. Sort of figure out, what are you walking into? What is the culture? And I think, too, you alluded to this, but where's the power? Who can make stuff happen? Who's passionate about stuff? And then just the last tips that I had shared about walking into a unit in a leadership role. So just some things there, and we'll make sure to jot those down. So moving forward to the second flight of the day, did anybody have final thoughts about organizational entry or socialization before we move on to professional development?
A few of you talked about. Sorry. All right. I have an echo, and I don't know why. Hold on one second. Okay. A few of you talked about making mentors, finding mentors professionally. I say find them at different levels. Some of us are student-facing in our jobs, and I used to actually ask students who does what on campus, faculty who does what on campus, and a staff member who does what on campus. And you have different visions. So some of us have roles that are really learner-centered, whether you're teaching, whether you're working as a student staff support, and you're not managing a team. So think about those kind of building those bonds, and those might be a student worker, a student, a work study. Actually, those have been some of the best people to transition into the college and university that I worked at. And so I'd say that's probably one of the things. And then you might want to find a buddy that you trust. That it doesn't necessarily have to be on your campus, and it might be someone in your new orientation that many of our institutions have. It might be someone that you know through a friend. Ask your networks, because that actually is a good way to start onboarding yourself besides their own program.
Yeah.
I would also add one more, and that's shared definition. So we are very student focused in our unit, and we're only now getting there. Again, it used to be very much like student employees were full-time employees, treated the same, held to the same standards, and we got away from that for a little while. We have a lot of student mentors on our staff right now that are helping us understand when we aren't doing things quite properly in those regards, and also sharing definitions. So students define faculty development way differently than we do when we've been in the field for a while, just as an example. So doing those exercises to make sure that when we talk about things, the understanding is shared and that the definitions are shared and that we're all talking about the same stuff.
That's a really good one. Sorry to cut you off, Patrice. I used to teach, I have a graduate certificate in mediation negotiation and used to teach conflict at Arizona State. And we always, talked about that to if you say something, then I would say Jess, I hear you saying blah, 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 blah. And I found that really to help out too, just as, a team member and also in a leadership role. I hear you saying, just to make sure that because, you guys know this, I'm not always the best communicator with certain things. So sometimes it's just good to do that perception check. Do you hear what I'm saying the way I think I'm saying it? Or, Sorry, Patrice, go ahead.
I was just going to add the importance of being yourself. That was, advice that somebody gave me years ago when I was interviewing for a job is, don't portray yourself as someone you're not just to get a job, because in the end you won't end up fitting in that position. And I think the same thing when you start the job is to just, be yourself. But at the same time, it's also a great way to recreate yourself in positive ways. So, for example, if you're somebody who's disorganized or has trouble doing time management tasks, whatever the case may be, there are some aspects when you start a new job to kind of reassess yourself and things that you want to work on and kind of, turn over a new leaf, so to speak.
Yeah, great tips. All right, so the second topic is tasting flight, and just a heads up, joining us here in a few minutes, was professional development, specifically leadership opportunities, and also how networks play into that. And so, Jess, you had actually came to the group not expecting this to be a topic, but you were asking us what were different leader opportunities that we have went through and so forth. And I had talked about some that I had sent my staff to or I felt had worked. I also had not great experiences where Patrice had great experiences. So Jess, do you want to just talk a little bit about your journey in looking for these experiences, and then folks can chime in. And if you're on the Twitter back channel, please share your good or bad experience with leadership professional development. And if you have resources, please share those as well with the hashtag 3WEDU.
Yeah, so it's interesting Mary joined at this time because she was the first person actually, aside from Tanya, said, hey, I just met you and you're really cool, will you be my mentor? And she's always been available for questions and things like that. I haven't asked a ton because as I've been settling in and figuring this whole thing out, I've been trying to figure out what questions to ask even. But MSU is wonderful. My unit, my department, etc. Anytime somebody hires into management, we are sent to like some pretty intensive leadership training that is I went into it kind of thinking, oh God, look at this stuff, am I gonna, oh, it's more policy, but it wasn't at all. They took us through DISC assessments and crucial accountability training and all sorts of stuff that I wouldn't be even nearly as far along as I am right now, but I still have a long way to go. And I started looking for leadership opportunities, and you find a lot of stuff on Google that costs like $13,000, but you have no sense for what you're going to get from that. So I kind of started reaching out, and I still don't have any real answers. A lot of the stuff that was recommended has gone away, so I was just curious about what people around the country and people who are new to leadership, like me, new to formal leadership, I guess, what they were using to learn how to be better.
Patrice, you had some good experiences in your leadership training. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So I participated in the MORE leadership program, and the way that program works, there's a cohort of people within the IT group on campus that meet together just about monthly for over the period of 9 months. And I found it invaluable, partially from the standpoint, like I said, of networking and just getting to meet people across my organization that I wouldn't otherwise have met. But I really valued that my organization felt it was important to give each of us time to work on ourselves. And so it was really a lot about self-reflection, thinking about our goals and what steps we wanted to take, learning how to network and develop relationships and things like that. But I just really valued the time that we had, and the coaches were phenomenal. I mean, my coach, Susan, I still talk with on a regular basis, and it really just influenced, my belief in my ability to lead from where I was, and that, to understand how I could influence from different levels in the organization. So I would highly recommend it. Like I said, I had a really great experience with it.
As you guys were talking about that, if you want to tweet out those resources, I came at this from a different angle because I was like, what do you do when you have very little funding, but you want to go and optimize your own professional development? And how do you do that? And where should you go? And what should you do within your fields or disciplines? And that was kind of the question and hope I had coming from this topic. So not so much like a directed, I need more leadership, but how do you best invest your PD dollars and into whether it's courses or books or going to conferences, and what does that look like, and how do you make those decisions? And Mary goes to all the conferences, so maybe she has some advice. I don't know.
Yeah, and so we can take this time now to introduce Mary Nemec. So Mary Nemec is our guest today. So since many of us on this panel have went to her with these sorts of questions, Patrice talked about MORE, and I didn't have as great of an experience. Maybe it's because I was from the academic side, and I felt, at least for the state of Wisconsin, it was very IT focused. I thought it was great to meet people across the organization, but I had already been at the organization for a while, so I had a little bit of a different experience there. So I have found Mary, which is part of why we invited here today, very helpful in being my advocate, my mentor, but really providing me advice on how to be a leader, how to navigate the political landscape of an institution, how to understand how state and federal policies impact our practice within the institution, and all of that side of things. So Mary, can you tell us a little bit about different strategies that you have for leadership, or different opportunities that we could seek out as being junior in the field compared to you? Oh wait, before we get started, hold on. What is Mary drinking? That is the important question. So Mary, please share with us what you're drinking today. What's uncorked?
Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I am drinking the Estancia Pinot Noir. It's a 2014 rare vintage from Monterey County. And I like this because...
Here, hold up the bottle to the camera. Let me see.
There we go. Can you see? Where's my camera? Is that it?
That's it. I love that wine.
Okay. So, if you like red and you like something a little lighter in the summer, this Pinot Noir is really smooth and really nice and light body. So, cheers, ladies. I've really enjoyed the first half of this conversation, and thank you so much for inviting me. Really appreciate it. So, which, by the way, also happens to be the first sip of wine I've had in a week, because I got hit with the flu right after vacation. So, in honor of you all, I popped it open.
Oh, that's awful. Any reason you can't drink wine, that's just devastating.
Well, you know I'm sick, right?
Yeah, I know you're sick.
You know. So you asked me a question about organizations and leadership, and I think something that you all just hit on when you were talking about professional development and how you all were searching out for professional development opportunities. As you all grow into leadership positions, which I have absolutely no doubt is going to happen, even more than it already has, make sure that you never forget that your responsibility as a leader and a manager is to make certain that the people under you have the tools they need to get it done. And it's an important balance, because it's not just about attending conferences. It's about contributing at the conferences. It's about being part of an organization. It's about spreading the brand of your institution with really good people out there and in front. And it's about succession planning too. So, you know, that your experience and how you were trying to identify these opportunities for yourselves is something that, you know, the people who you were reporting to should be having that conversation with you absolutely every single year.
You
about
know,
where you're going, what do you want to do?
it's so funny that you bring this up, Mary, because Nori and I were just having a conversation earlier today. And we were talking about keys to leadership and certain people's role, and this totally came up in our conversation, because I really truly feel like if you are a leader, one, and we talked about this last month, you hire amazing staff, and you know they're amazing because you brought them on board. And number two, you make sure they have the tools and the resources to do their job. And beyond that, there's no need to micromanage and those sorts of things. It's making sure that your staff has what they need to be successful at whatever their goals are. Right, Nori? We were just talking about this.
Absolutely true. You know when you've got a good team, and you know when you've got a team that really has it handled, when you can leave for 2 weeks and not even worry about whether you have internet connection. I mean, you do get a little twitchy because there's that, you know, thing about not having internet, but that's when you know. I mean, I just did it, and I had complete confidence in my entire team while I was gone, because I knew they had every single aspect handled. And I also knew that if they had something that they couldn't handle, they knew how to reach me. And
I just did the same. It's so relieving.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. So,
You know, so I met Mary through my boss. I've talked about him a few times, but Mary, Bob used to always say to me, you know, and I think, Mary, you've said the same thing, is the best sign that you're a good leader is that you are transparent, that you, you know, you can go on vacation, you don't need to be out there, that your team can do amazing things, you know, whether you're there or not. And Jess just did the same thing, Mary. She went on vacation for a couple weeks and, like, I don't know, somewhere in the country with mountains and Mount Rushmore or something. And so how'd that work out for you, Jess? By the way, kudos to the Nebraska system team for pulling it off while Mary was touring Alaska. Cheers to Todd and the rest.
yeah.
I was at Yellowstone. Yeah, there were buffalo. It was terrifying. There was no internet, and you know, I was with my whole family in a minivan with no internet. And so when I popped on to talk to my team, it wasn't because I wanted to know what they were doing. I was like, please, anyone who's not related to me, please talk to me. I just saw a herd of buffalo, and I have no internet, and I don't know what to do with myself. And they were like, great, woo, there's a squirrel, go away. And I was like, great.
Well, there's no proof that you saw that buffalo. If you didn't have internet and you couldn't take a picture of that.
It's on Instagram. My husband called it, what did he call it, Wi-Fi whack-a-mole. So basically we'd be driving through the park in this tiny minivan, and we would hear somebody's notifications go off, and he would pull over, you know, gotta Instagram that waterfall. But yeah, the thing was, I didn't need to call and say, how is everybody? You know, they were great. So.
No, that's and that's what you should be doing. I mean, the other piece, of course, and I know we're not talking about leadership, but you all have demonstrated leadership skills in every single thing you do, and so it's not leadership isn't about a title. Leadership is about the way you act and who you are and how you approach and the responsibility you take. But in listening to your first half of this and talking about what you look for in positions, I'm extremely impressed about the ability to discriminate against the enticement of dollars. Because a new job and a new opportunity isn't just about the money, as we know. We have so many complexities in our lives that where priorities are different at different times. And
especially for women, our priorities can be different. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that in our society, women are seen at many times are expected to take a secondary to allow for or to take the secondary career path, whether it's in a marriage, whether it is children. But I do feel though that as we evolve, men are facing the same thing. There are many men who don't take those jobs, don't want to travel because they also don't want to miss things in lives, or they've got ailing parents, or maybe they just really love their spouse a whole lot and can't be away from them, which is great. After almost 39 years of marriage, it's okay to be away a little bit.
Mary, you talk a lot, I know, in previous sessions, in conferences and in different events that you're at about succession planning. Can you talk a little bit with the ladies on the panel as well as our audience about succession planning and why you feel that's important?
I think it is irresponsible of anybody in a management position to not think about what would happen with the organization and the infrastructure if they're not there. And it's a sign of insecurity if an individual tries to keep all the information and compartmentalize it out. It's a sign of insecurity if someone tries to take credit for everything their team does. And by the way, if that's happening to you, look for another job, because one of the things, you all are way too good to have to put up with that kind of behavior. But I do think that the minute we take a job, we have a responsibility to making certain the work continues when we're gone, because we're eventually gonna leave. We're gonna retire. We're gonna take a different position, and if you don't want to lose everything that you've built, then start planning ahead. Now, being in an organization in which I don't own the company, it's a public entity. It is a university, and there can be decisions made that what we've worked hard to establish, it will not continue anyway. But that shouldn't stop you from making certain that it could continue. There needs to be continuity. And that also helps you retain really good, talented people. Because we also know that we can't always reward the people the way we want, because there are, state budget issues, there are, equity issues. So you need to find ways in which to give folks and individuals the satisfaction in the job. Someone told me this just this week. Actually, it was my daughter, which who is still struggling to try and find her path. And last year she was substitute teaching and was a para-sub with special needs kindergarten, and was really enjoying that. This summer, she's doing working at a golf course, right, doing the golf cart, doing all that, making cash this summer until she can start back at the school, trying to decide if she's going to grad school, what she wants to do. She came to me and she said, I know that I think I know what I want to do, because when I went to school, when I went to the classroom, it wasn't like work. When I left, I was thinking about what I wanted to do when I got back the next day. And she said, now, stocking the golf court, not so much. So that's the kind of, if you could build that culture, you've knocked it out of the park. We also know that, and I know we talk about dream jobs. There's no dream job. Every job's got cracks in it. Every job's got stuff you don't want to do, or people you have to deal with that you just need to suck it up and get past it. So, but if it's a job that gives you satisfaction, that makes you feel as if you're contributing, that lets you feel as if you have a voice, that's a really positive career and a positive job, and that's our role.
That's really, awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
No, I was going to say, it's funny, Mary, I like how you said that, and there was a really funny article that I'm going to equate to your job to being in a marriage or in a committed partnership. And Time Magazine had this article on marriage, and they've talked about, like, there's a really funny satirical English author that slipped my mind, but we'll come back, and talked about we have these high expectations for our partnerships and partnerships with work. We are invested many hours, and we expect it to be everything. Well, it can't be everything, and it shouldn't be. And like the disconnected from it and having different lives and having different attributes is really important. And your work marriage is part of that. Like, you need to also have some separation from that, have some outside extracurriculars, and don't expect everything from it, because it can't be the best chef, best friend, a sweet lover that you want it to be in work. You're not going to love everything about it, and that's why we have hobbies, and that's why we do things on the side, like podcasts, play the ukulele. I think that's okay. Drink wine. Like, I think we need to think about work as a balance. And I want to have an intervention, side note, for your internet needs in the wilderness. We need to talk about that later, a few of you.
I was just afraid of the buffalo. How was I going to get help when that buffalo grazed his furry little head up to my porch? This is how it ends. This is how it ends.
I just want to say, first of all, Mary and Jess, in the midst of their vacations, are like sending me apologetic messages, or us apologetic messages. And I'm like, go. We're all fine. The world is revolving without you. Yes, we miss you, but don't worry. We can all function without Mary and Jess while they're on vacation. But I know I felt the same way before. Tell you that. It's okay. Don't apologize when you go on vacation. Just a quick one before we wrap up the second tasting flight. Did anybody else have something they wanted to share before I summarize some of the points?
I would like to share, I'm not entirely sure you can live without us.
I mean, not in the
Talk about an ego.
All right, so I just wanted to summarize some of the points that were shared in our tasting flight too. So let me see if I can read my notes here. So the first one I think is providing your staff capacity to succeed. Okay, so when you think about these things, what are the resources that you can provide your staff in order to ensure that they're able to achieve their goals and be satisfied? So I think that was a key here. I've always been worried about staff satisfaction. And some people don't worry about that. I think, Mary, you mentioned that. I think the second key here, and I just was talking about one of my dear friends and colleagues, Charla Lane, in her 20s, who inspires me all the time. And so we were talking about the fact that as women leading from wherever you are, you never know who's watching. And Mary alluded to that. You don't have to have a director title. You don't have to do whatever. You never know who's watching you as a woman making your way through life. And so live your life the best that you can, professionally and otherwise, because, again, you never know, who's watching and who's being informed or inspired by that. The third thing, I'm breaking it down a little, was succession plan. So be secure in your job. As a woman, I know a lot of times, we've talked about this in previous episodes, that women get insecure in our positions because we are sometimes a male-dominated structural organization. So be secure. Give credit where credit is due to your staff. Plan for your absence. Focus on continuity. And really focus on doing these things in order to retain your staff. I mean, we all talked about the last thing we want is for people to micromanage us and not have confidence in our work. And so I think Mary really brings home the fact that staff are not necessarily disposable. I almost cry every time I lose a staff member. You know, shout out to Ashley Billig, who just took a position at the Department of Justice. I mean, so sad that I didn't have the funding to keep her. I really wanted to cry, but yay for Ashley. And so, you know, lots of times people, this isn't a job, and for us, this is sort of, you know, a little bit more than that because we're very passionate and inspired about what we do. That's why we do just fun webcasts on Wednesday night for no reason. So anyway, so that was sort of summarizing Tasting Flight 2. To get to the final portion of the show, we call this the boxed wine moment of the month. This is before I started drinking boxed wine. But, you know, it allows anybody on the panel to get on their box or on Twitter using the hashtag 3WEDU. And what we do, it's a rant or a toast or a roast or a boast. So if Mary, as your guest, anybody has something to share about something that you would like to rant about in higher ed, or a toast or a roast or a boast about anything that's going on or coming up in the future, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you all.
I have a roast. It's just where I am right now. So I'm working on a national award, and I'm working in digital courseware. I work with funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I'm thinking about, in general, people like to throw a lot of stuff out there, and usually the negative kind of rises up. There's nothing particularly negative that's come up, but what I've noticed from this first year of applicants for this award in excellence is what I suspected all along. Right now, there's this really young field, and there's not a lot of excellence out there, but there's a lot of learning out there. And it makes me want to get ahead of the idea of what design thinking is really promoting. Fail, fail, fail. And I'm just thinking positively that there's a lot of good things out in this award platform, but we're not going to find giant pearls of excellence. And I hope the higher ed community understands that we're trying to do something so new that the fails are where the gems are right now. And that's my rant. I just want design thinking, the idea of iterative cycles until you really find something that's really worthy. That's where I am today. That's my rant.
Can I just jump on that for a minute? Am I on here? Yeah. So it's very interesting you say that because I was just reading this article where the U.S. Department of Education, Office of the Undersecretary, sort of highlighted this 4 areas for the last 200 days for the U.S. Department of Ed. I work under a U.S. Department of Ed funded grant, and it is very interesting that in looking at I'm vigorously writing like 4 IAS grants right now, so I'm a little frazzled if you haven't noticed. My life 24/7 is grants and drinking wine. No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe close. 12/7. Okay. So it's creative energy. So, you know, writing all this stuff and doing all this stuff and then realizing we're not really investing enough in exploration. And we're not building off, if we even do exploration, we're not building enough off of that. And so I really feel that, and this was very clear in this article, I really hope that the U.S. Department of Education's funding lines up with what the Office of the Undersecretary was saying, was this is where we need to invest our time and resources. I hope they back it up with money, and I hope we can have more exploratory studies and more exploratory studies we build on and less randomized control trials. I'm never getting a grant ever again. But
Here. Well, I'm just tired.
I'll drink to that.
I'm tired of just say that you did something excellent and don't back it up with anything. How about
Yeah.
you say you tried something excellent, you failed excellently, and you learned something excellent?
Yeah.
Why is
And I
that
would
okay?
in the data findings that are coming out in the coming months, we do have some no significant difference, and that's fine because we're learning from that. And hopefully we can replicate these studies, and we could do more mixed methods. We could do more qualitative studies to start really understanding what these quantitative findings mean. So, all right.
In the beginning of the Blended Learning Initiative, we had a grant at UIC, and the courses that were funded to be blended were the faculty members were responsible for writing case studies, and then we posted the case studies. The important piece of that was not necessarily to pat ourselves on the back and say, look how successful this was. It was also to talk about what didn't work. Because you cannot be afraid to fail or afraid to fund things that may not be 100% successful, because it should be a building block. We're always about improvement. Why would this be any different?
And sometimes we need to know why it didn't work. I just was in a research meeting this morning about CBE program and success, and everyone's worried about what is successful, and let's focus on what isn't successful and why. So I just want to wrap up letting you all know, because we're here at the top of the hour, that we will have our next podcast. Laura, is it episode 8?
Yeah, it'll be what this episode says it is. It's going to be Hope's Dreams for the new year, and it's going to be on the August 31st.
So Hope's Dreams for the new school year, August 3rd, right?
August 31st.
Oh, well, I was slightly off with that. So August 31st, so we have a good 6 weeks before we all see you again. Thank you all for joining. If you missed the beginning part, please catch us on YouTube. Pound 3WEDU, just throw it in the YouTube search bar and you'll find all of our recordings. So I just want to say again, thank you, Mary Nemec, for taking time out of your really busy schedule to join us and drop some wisdom on us. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Cheers.